We won't let him melt.
How are you, Mike? Oh, okay. A phone call away.
Goes from cold and wet.
You want it, Pat?
As much as I try, I never find a meeting.
I was asking about you. What did you could ask?
But I don't see that they provided it.
Oh, no.
I play golf.
Vivian wasn't to be here.
No matter how nice it is, cold and rainy.
I got a copy of the establishment's large font menu. Looks really nice.
But it does.
I meant to bring it as an example.
I saw
Maybe because you're on the
You guys should
curve.
know.
Oh,
You're in the rain too, right?
We appreciate money at church for cleaning and restoring, but some of the stuff is just amazing. So.
Hey, nothing
But
crazy.
she's first.
Okay. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So technically, I should have called the meeting to order first. So we're at 7 o'clock. We'll call to order this May 20th meeting for the Board of Selectmen.
We don't have to announce that anymore.
We'll start with our public service announcements.
Hello. My name is Regina Jackson, and I'm here to let everybody know about the Memorial Day Parade 2019 and to get the proclamation. The Chelmsford Memorial Day Parade is in North Chelmsford this year. We alternate yearly. It is Monday, May 27th. The step-off time is at 10 a.m. from the American Legion, Post 313, 90 Groton Road. If you want to be in the parade, we'd love to have you. Just assemble about 9:30-ish, and we'll step off at 10 o'clock sharp. And we'll proceed down Groton Road. We're going to end at Vinyl Square Common. We'll have a Memorial Day program at the Common. And then after the program, we're going to go to the Chelmsford Community Center at North Town Hall for ice cream and cake. And everybody's welcome.
You want me to read this?
Sure.
All right, I will read the proclamation now. The Town of Chelmsford Proclamation in recognition of Memorial Day, May 27, 2019. Whereas Memorial Day, May 27, 2019, has been set aside as the annual day of remembrance for those men and women who served our nation during times of conflict as members of the armed forces. And whereas we pause this day to especially remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice of their lives to defend the freedom of all Americans. And whereas we honor the service and sacrifice of all veterans of all wars and conflicts and join the living veterans of the town of Chelmsford in expressing our gratitude to their fallen comrades. Now therefore we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 27th, 2019 as Memorial Day 2019 and join all residents of the town in recognizing the deceased veterans of Chelmsford on this solemn day. Signed as 20th day of May by Ken LaFave, Pat Wodis, Emily Antu, George Dixon, and Virginia Crockett-Himmons, and sealed by Patricia Zuris, the town clerk.
Great. Thank you. I'll see everybody Monday.
Thank you.
We'll see you then.
And do we have a public service announcement from the Parade Committee, July 4th?
He's right there.
Yeah, good, thank you. Hey, John.
Good evening. I'm John Osborne from the Chelmsford Parade Committee for the July 4th Parade. I don't have a proclamation. I'm here to announce the Parade Marshal for 2019. And the committee has chosen Jerry Hardy out of Hardy Doric Incorporated. I think you're familiar with Jerry Hardy. He's been through the town. I know his company's been in Chelmsford for 25 years. Prior to that, he was in Lowell, started with his father, so it's the third generation now. They were in Lowell for 60 years prior to that, over on Weed Street, over in the Sacred Heart area. So it's a well-established company. We went through the committee. We went through a bunch of different nominations, different suggestions, and the committee decided on Jerry. It was a unanimous vote that night. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was at a previous commitment, so I missed that. But everything else, everyone was in agreement with that. So he accepted the nomination that we gave him graciously. He's all excited about joining it. He and his wife will be riding in their own car, driven by their son, Robert, I believe. This year, actually, their other son, Jeff, is also announcing the parade. Kelly Beatty is on vacation, I believe he's in Europe this year. So the past members of the parade committee, Lynn Marcella and Jeff Hardy, are the two people that are going to be announcing the parade. So just in summary, the parade is progressing very well. We have all the bands that we've had in the past, also in addition to one more from Canada. So we have 3 from Canada coming down this year. One is on hold. There was a new there's a new band manager for one of the pipe bands that I'm still working with currently. But we think we're all set with that. The typical floats are coming in from the town. Chelmsford Community Band, the Acton Minutemen, Lexington Minutemen, the Chelmsford Minutemen. So everyone is coming in with that too. We do have our singer for the national anthem at the beginning of the parade, and at the flag raising ceremony is Sam Siegel. He's actually in the audience here tonight. He will be singing this year. He's from Chelmsford High School. His mom's up here for something else, not to be biased, but But he's from part of the Thursdays from Chelmsford High School, the a cappella group that just came in 3rd in the country for in the International Championship for high school a cappella groups. He came from high regards from members of the town and the high school. So he'll be doing the national anthem at the beginning when the flag is raised at the morning, and then at the beginning of the parade, which is usually around 10:30 by the time it crosses the center. We did hang all the banners up in the town. You'll notice it in the center that came across. The flags are up. Drum Hill is going up this week along with Vinyl Square. It's a nice, the balloon banners that welcome to Chelmsford. We did have a lot of repeat Chelmsford businesses, which was great. A few extra residents came in too, so it was a very contentious. Everyone was a little bit concerned about that, but all the businesses stepped up and re-enlisted. A lot of them re-enlisted. We had 7 new businesses that came into town and also joined, and that's our major fundraising. We charge $500 per banner per season. So that's our major fundraising where the parade is fully funded by donations and fundraising. And it is coming along good. It's not an election year, so there'll be less politicians as it was last year, so the parade will be shorter. We had one that had a couple hundred people involved in there, but it's coming good. And so I'd like to thank everyone that participated. I'd like to thank all the residents that contributed. I'd like to thank all the businesses that contributed to our fundraising. And everyone in the committee thanks everyone. And if there's any questions, that's all I had to say.
Great.
I think one thing that probably we should note is Jerry Hardy, in addition to the business that you mentioned, he's one of the longest-serving elected officials in the town of Chelmsford. He's been on the cemetery commission for longer than many of the people in the audience have been alive, so.
I'll have to make a note of that. Yeah, I didn't speak to Jerry yet to get his bio or anything, so I kind of just knew what I knew from, being from Lowell. I knew they were in Lowell for 60 years, and I grew up in that neighborhood, so. I remember seeing Hardy back then as a kid, running around that area, so. Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. And we have another proclamation. Receiving it.
Is anyone here to receive the Pride Month proclamation? Charlie or Pat?
Okay, I will read the proclamation. This is a proclamation for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month, June 2019. Whereas the town of Chelmsford is a welcoming community and an exceptional place to live, learn, work, play, and raise a family. And whereas Chelmsford recognizes the importance of equality and freedom. And whereas the nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes that every person has been created equal, that each has rights to their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of laws. And whereas the town of Chelmsford lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ community is a vital part of all fields and professions and contribute to a stronger community. And whereas the town of Chelmsford is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas Chelmsford is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of our town. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control recognizes that LGBTQ teens are at higher risk to be the victims of violence and have increased suicide rates, and whereas it is imperative that young people in the community, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. Now, therefore, we the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town of Chelmsford, hereby proclaim and recognize June 2019 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month in the town of Chelmsford, and urge citizens to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ community and to actively promote the principles and of equality and liberty. Signed the 20th day of May, 2019, by Ken LaFave, Pat Wojcik, Emily Andrew, George Dixon, and Virginia Crocker-Timmons, the Board of Selectmen, and sealed by Patricia Juris, the town clerk.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you very much. That's a really cool thing to hear. This is the sort of thing that I think can make the difference for young people realizing they're LGBT like I was like in the early 2000s. This is the sort of thing that makes a difference between kids feeling anxious and afraid when they enter adolescence or just feeling like normal kids. And it's awesome that Chelmsford is a place where I think the latter is more true.
Yeah, this is kind of surreal. I just having grown up before there were LGBTQ groups in high school, and then to have like yourselves at like be politicians just saying that it's okay and that we're accepted and we're safe is hugely different than the reality that I grew up in. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
And do one of you want to accept this?
Yeah.
Let's go. Well,
Thank you so much. Thank you. I won't go
Good luck, guys.
Okay, now it's time for open session. If anybody wants to address the board.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having open session. My name is Maura Snow. I live at 41 Old Stage Road, and I am offering to buy pride flags for any town buildings that would like to fly them. The Center for the Arts is going to do so, and there'll be nice ones like this with the stitched. They'll be bigger than this, 3x5 or 4x6 as needed. I think everyone has my email, so if there are other town buildings that would like to fly a pride flag during the month of June, please email me my donation to the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Okay, so we're going to move on to committee vacancies.
Okay, as of today, we have the following committee vacancies. There is one vacancy on the CCA Advisory Committee. There are 4 vacancies on the Civic Committee, 1 vacancy on the Community Action Program Committee, 2 vacancies on the Council on Aging, both associate member positions. The Cultural Council can have up to 21 total members, so they're looking for many additional members. There are 2 vacancies on the Energy Conservation Committee, 3 vacancies on the Holiday Decorating Committee, 2 vacancies on the Middlesex Canal Commission. Parade Committee is welcoming all applicants. Personnel Board has 1 vacancy. Public Celebrations Committee has 3 vacancies. Roberts Field Advisory Committee has 1 vacancy. Sign Advisory Committee has 3 vacancies, and the Skate Park Committee has 2 vacancies. If you're interested in applying for a position in any of these committees, you can apply online or pick up an application at the town manager's office. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. And that brings us to public hearings. Let's see, our first one is an all-alcohol beverage license for Spicy Touch.
If it pleases the board, my name is Arthur Perlman. I represent Sri Conaroo and Spicy Touch Inc. They're seeking a Section 12 restaurant all-alcoholic beverage license for the premises at 313 Littleton Road, Unit 10-12 in Chelmsford. This location has previously had liquor licenses, the last of which was a restaurant known as the Curry House in 2018. Spicy Touch is a mass corporation. Sri Conaroo is the president and a 25% owner. The other 3 owners each owe 25% as well. Lenin Ganjam, Sri Vandavali, and Rav Kandialo. Lenin Ganjam will be the manager on the license, and he's currently living at 206 Katahdin Lane in Lexington. Sri is the president and currently living at 17 Holbrook Road in Northborough. Sri is the only owner who has an ownership interest in another restaurant which has an all-alcoholic license, and that restaurant's in Framingham. Neither Sri nor anyone who works at his restaurant has ever sold to a minor or violated any law, rule, or regulation regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages. We are currently intending to sell alcohol from 11:30 until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 10:30 a.m. on Friday, noon to 10:30 on Saturday, and noon to 9:30 on Sunday. Sri Conaroo, already being in the liquor business, is familiar with the laws relative to the sale of alcohol. Both Lennon and Sri are TIPS trained. They both uphold the statutory law as well as any rule or regulation of the towns regarding the sale of alcohol, and I respectfully request that the board approve the application for a restaurant liquor license at 313 Littleton Road, Unit 10-12 for Spicy Touch, Inc.
Public.
Excuse me? Questions?
Has the list of abutters been notified?
Yes.
I think there was a list in here.
You can drop them here. Okay. This is the list we got from the town. We sent out 44. I've got all the white slips, I'm giving you the green slips, and only that number have come back. And we sent it out on the 9th of May. So it's been 11 days. For whatever reason, people aren't picking up their, I mean, I have the receipt here from the post office showing we sent them all on that day. I have the white slips stamped by the post office showing we sent them all at that day, so they've all gone out. It's just a matter that, for whatever reason, they're not picking them up.
I have a question. You mentioned Lennon is going to be the manager.
Yes.
And I see under his employment information that he's never managed a restaurant before, at least that's, or maybe I'm wrong. Has he managed a restaurant?
He's been in a restaurant, yes, he has, in Framingham.
Okay, so it says his position is a QA analyst.
Pardon me?
It says his position was a QA analyst on the application here, so it was unclear to me that he...
Oh, okay, I don't know how I missed that.
Okay.
But yeah.
But he has worked as a...
Yes, he's been at the restaurant.
Okay, and he is tip certified, you had said.
Tip certified, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Public hearing.
True. Anybody from the public would like to speak on this?
It is typically the policy of this board to continue the application for a new alcohol license to continue the hearing until our next meeting in case somebody hears about it for the first time as a result of this hearing. So I would make a motion to continue this public hearing to our meeting on June 3rd.
We have a motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have to close it, you have to close it. You close the
We
hearing.
continue it.
No, you're continuing it.
Sorry. I'm not-
So it's a 5-0. So we'll see you back here on June 3rd, and we'll take the vote that night.
Okay, June 3rd.
That brings us to licenses. For the first one, we have a common vigilar and entertainment license, Trailside Ice Cream.
Good evening, Wendy Siegel, 7 Bridge Street in Chelmsford, and I'm seeking a victular and entertainment license for Trailside Ice Cream Parlor, hoping to open end of June, right at 5961 Central Square, right next to the CCA along the bike path.
Sounds like a good place for an ice cream parlor.
Well, since Friendly's is closed, I think it's
Yeah,
be a
there's
good spot for it.
It's a little vacuum.
You're going to have to pedal more down the trail now. Any questions?
No.
I'll make a motion that we grant the common victuals license to Trailside Ice Cream Parlor at 5961 Central Square, Unit 5, as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next, we have an application for change of hours for an all alcohol beverage license for Sterling Golf Management.
How y'all doing?
Good.
So you're the Chelmsford Country Club,
Yes, sir.
and what are we doing with your hours?
Just on Sunday, changing it to 10 a.m. from noon to starting at 10 a.m. Two major reasons are functions that want mimosa bars, and anybody play golf here?
All of us.
That a way to go, guys. A lot of my golfers would like a little swing oil around 10 o'clock after church before they play. So
That's one way of putting it.
that's what we call it down Texas. So
You gotta wait till 10, I guess, Joe.
Any questions?
not at home, you don't.
Any question, George? You good?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for Sterling Golf Management at the Chelmsford Country Club to allow beginning of serving of alcohol on Sundays at 10 a.m.
Okay. I was told to bring $100 with me.
Oh,
That's
no.
from me.
Pay us. I can give you golf lessons. He shot 47 a day. I used to play on TV. I'd be happy to help you.
Oh,
But,
does
do you
that
know
go
any-
to
Wanted to
Christina?
shoot 37.
I didn't hear anybody, we'll deal with that tomorrow in the office if there's a fee
Okay.
due, but
I can
we
just
won't-
send a
we
check
won't-
to Christina,
Yeah,
whatever
do
y'all
that.
want.
That would be fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
We
we
don't
gotta-
we don't handle cash.
We gotta finish our vote, though.
I just moved to New England, and where I'm from, cash is king, so we just deal in cash.
Give you a mulligan.
All right, so we have
I
a motion.
like that.
We have a motion.
We have a motion?
Second.
A motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We're all set.
Bye-bye. Oh, one last thing, though. If y'all, I'm gonna leave my card here. If anybody's involved in a charity and you need a donation of a foursome or anything, most of our asks are from Boston area. I hardly ever get asked from Chelmsford, so.
Well, I'll see you.
I would love for anyone.
Give me your card.
It's JAY@sterlinggolf.com, but we're very
Thank you.
philanthropic when it comes to that.
Thank you. Great.
Okay, so we have another license here, special license to sell wine at the agricultural event by House Beer Brewing LLC.
Not beer.
Bear.
There.
Bear Brewing. On the Chelmsford Town Common during Farmers Market from June 15th to September 15th,
Yep.
14th.
I'm Beth Borges. I'm with House Beer Brewing. I'm half the company. And we'd like to be at the Farmers Market in Chelmsford to sell our mead. Do you have any questions for me?
Where do you get your honey?
We get most of it from Merrimack Valley, Apiaries, and Billerica.
Oh, okay.
Ken just put in bees the other day.
Oh, really? Neat. Cool.
It stung once. Okay, do we have any questions? You brew up in Newbury?
Newburyport.
Newburyport.
Yep. I've been making mead since college.
Do you have a location up there too?
Mm-hmm. We've got a tasting room. We're in the industrial area of Newburyport, right across from Diana's Desserts and Newburyport Brewing and the old Riverwalk spot. So if you guys come and visit, come on over.
Is this your first year at the Chelmsford Market?
It is.
How did you find out about us?
I think Valerie was looking for new people, and we got an email or something. And so then I started helping her try to get more agricultural vendors.
Nice.
All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the sale of brews from the House Beer Brewing at the Chelmsford Summers Farmers Market from June 15th to September 14th on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. as presented.
I will second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cool. So then do we just get emailed the permit then?
Yeah, well, yeah, the
Okay.
administrator will take care of it.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right, the last one. We have a one-day expansion of the entertainment license for Center Brickhouse Pizza at 1 Central Square.
Hello, Charlie Mickle, Brickhouse Center Sports Grill, 1 Central Square, just looking to extend our entertainment license. We've done it the last maybe 4 or 5 years, where we put out a stage out in the parking area, have bands, have some local young kids come, and the hours are 4 to 10. Over the last few years, we haven't had the construction in the back, so the parking, but I know the questions have come up about that. On that day, there's no traffic going down Littleton Road. It's already shut off, so there's not the traffic there. I know we've spoken with fire as well on that day. So that's a pretty good day for us. So we block off an area surrounding the stage into our deck, basically.
I recall that last year there were some comments about the noise level.
Yeah, and we heard that and so I only reached out to Ken from Community Band to make sure. We have a different stage coming.
Okay.
And the way the stage is set, the sound is going towards the building, but we have a different stage actually that will be surrounded a little bit more in the back. And so I'll make sure. We never heard it. We never heard from anyone the last few years, so that was the first when we came down.
I think we all
the other
got
day.
several phone calls last year.
Yeah, so,
Right.
that was the first I heard of it when I stopped in to fill out the application. So
Okay.
we talked to the people that do the stage. They can do a little different stage, and I'll make sure to go over.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to either tone it down or I think they go from 7 to 9.
I'm not sure
when
what
the
their
community
hours are.
band. I'm pretty sure that's when they go. So it's in the heat of it, but we can take a break and just make sure on that. But yeah.
Okay, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the request to expand the entertainment license for Brickhouse Sports Bar and Grill on July 3rd from 4 to 10 p.m. as presented.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then just one other thing I brought up when we came in and filled out the application is we were exploring having another one on Labor Day. With the holiday being Labor Day, it's our 10-year anniversary. And we're trying to open it up to the public to see if it's doable, because then at that point in time, 110's not blocked off. So we're just kind of throwing it out there, maybe what feedback either from the public at a later time, and I thought this was a good opportunity to talk about it where we have you guys. So I don't know if there's any thoughts to that. And again, if it's something that doesn't make sense, that's fine. We're just looking to do something kind of for the town as well. And we would do it, respectively, in the afternoon. We're not looking to have something at night, especially with the light. We'd probably do it, during the daylight. And day-wise, it doesn't matter, so we're trying to maybe, coordinate something with the town that maybe coincides with something else, either on the common or...
I mean, I'll say that if you've watched a lot of our town meetings lately, there's been a lot of discussion about how to bring foot traffic and activity into the downtown area.
Yep.
And these are the type of things I think we'd like to see. But as far as, I don't want to speak for the board, I'd be for it, but you'd have to work out the
And it
details with
certainly would be
Paul's
toned down.
office.
I'm sure it would be toned down from the 3rd, because the 3rd is just there's so many people there anyways, so they come over. But
And the
I mean, it'd
units
be
will-
great if people,
Yeah, the units in the back still will
Won't
not be
be complete.
occupied, so there wouldn't be
Right.
any issues in terms of flow to the back of the property.
Right, there's no, at
'Cause
that
they-
point,
they-
it's closed off. and-
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
think
having
we
gone
work-
to similar sorts of events in Worcester and Lowell over the past many years, they're usually a lot of fun. It's good.
yeah, I mean, looking at, again, I come back at a later meeting. I'm just
Right.
kind of throwing it out there.
But if there are things
Something
like
to think
police
about.
details,
Police and
you gotta
fire.
work that out
Yeah,
with
I'm
Paul.
sure
and-
Yeah.
there's a host of
Yeah.
regulations, and it's just a matter of going through and.
Okay.
You
But
probably
any-
gonna
So-
do a duet?
I don't think you'd want that. Scare everyone away.
But anything, we just want to see more activity down there, so that's,
Yeah.
something like that.
I mean,
would-
again, I think it would be great, and just how to handle it, on our end and from the town's end, I think is what
I
we're
wonder
looking
too
for.
about coordinating with some of the other shops in the area and maybe making more of a festival.
You should take this bull by the horns, Charlie.
Really, go with it.
I mean, again, I think it'd be a great thing.
The
But-
Workhouse Festival, Charlie, sounds good, man.
It
I
happens.
love your initiative. Good luck.
Ken's got your back all the way.
Appreciate it. Okay. No.
Yeah. She's done actually a lot of effort in trying to coordinate the businesses down there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like from what I've heard from talking with officials in other towns and at a workshop in January, that whenever you can coordinate and stack that sort of festival or anniversary celebration, it has a ripple effect, and it only improves things for everyone if you publicize it right and you bill it right and you get buy-in from the other.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing on the common that weekend.
Not Labor Day, no.
No, that's later in September is the country fair, but that's later in the month.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to bring Ferris wheels and everything else, good
Yeah.
luck.
Nice.
Maybe we can do it.
Rodeo, Ken would
Well,
be
I just saw
the
the Apple
first
Blossom
Westford.
festival in Westford, and that's I'd never been to that. I mean, I've read about it, but I never actually went, and was quite the production. But
Okay. Thank you.
think big.
you.
Got more than he bargained for. Sorry.
Throw me out next time. All right, so that brings us to reports and presentations.
Chelmsford Water Day.
What's the presentations?
I thought you were going to
My
introduce
favorite
somebody
time
else.
of the day.
You need to introduce
The arrow
Oh.
button to advance the slide.
This one, this
Yep,
way?
yep.
Okay.
district.
All right. Hi, thank you for making some time on your busy agenda today to allow us to come and present to you an overview of the Chelmsford Water District. We have, I think, about 15 minutes, and we have 17 slides. I'm going to start off. My name is Lisa Balsich. I'm the business director and the treasurer for the Chelmsford Water District. And then it's going to be followed up by Bob Delaney, who's the superintendent. And we just wanted to kind of give you a broad overview. I know some of you are new. And to try to give you a little snapshot of who we are and what we do and what makes up the district. So this is a copy of our staff. And our staff, we have 19 full-time employees. We are managed by a board of water commissioners, and our board of water commissioners are here today. We have Ron Wetmore, John Harrington, and Bill Martin. They do the day-to-day management of the district under the direction of Bob Delaney as the superintendent and myself. All of our water quality personnel hold treatment licenses, and all our distribution personnel hold distribution licenses. And we also have a very robust cross-connection that people are trained on both sides, operations, treatment, and the distribution side, so that they have knowledge of both sides and can kind of cross-train. And many of our employees have dual licenses on both sides of the house. We also have MCPPO certification, public purchasing certification in the district, myself being certified as MCPPO for bids and proposals, and we have another staff member that's an associate MCPPO who can fill in case of my absence. So we really have a diverse staff of people. We also have Todd Melanson, who's our compliance manager, and he assures that we comply with all the federal and state environmental regulations, which is, you know, just a full-time job in and of itself to kind of comply with all of that. So that's kind of a broad picture of our staff. I wanted to give you an overview of our new website, and I call it new because it was one of the first things I did when I came into the district was do an overview of our website. It seemed a little antiquated at the time, and we launched it June 1st, 2017. Our website is www.chelmsfordwater.com. In this going over to a new website allowed us to do an overhaul of all our policies and processes and what was posted on the website and review them, because sometimes when you have a website, it can kind of sit out there for long periods of time and nobody's really taking deep dives or updating on it. So we selected this vendor, we put it in a new website. We love the way it looks. It showcases our district. The pictures change, and you can see up on the top it shows all of our departments. So each department has a clear mission statement that we all took time to decide what was our mission statement within these departments. And there's a clear indication of who our staff is, as well as you can see we have a news page where we put up current news. We have a calendar which we coincide with the town's calendar with all our meetings and our agendas and our minutes. We also send them to the town and they post them for us to the clerk, which we're real appreciative of that. And then we have an emergency tab, and you'll see easy access. There's a place to contact us. Water quality, that gives us all the information on our CCR and our water management. And then we have a button there for pay online where people can go in and set up accounts. They can look at histories of their accounts. They can set up all kinds of things in the system in order to manage their accounts. And then there's a little button, selling your home, which has been, when people sell their house, we have to do a final water reading, and it's been really busy this year. So I think it's a good indication of the sales of property in Chelmsford. So high-level information about us. I wanted to kind of give a snapshot of some of the activity that I encounter that is important to my group. The district is independently audited on an annual basis, and our financial reports are sent to the State of Massachusetts Department of Local Services for certification of our free cash. Our auditor is Mara LLC, and I did want to note that our auditor also audits North Chelmsford Water District and the Acton Water District. And so we've set up a program between the three districts with our auditor that we meet and we share ideas, we share information, and then all of our audited reports are sent to the Department of Local Services by one auditor, and it's much easier for us to kind of get through that process that sometimes is very cumbersome. So we really like our team approach on that. We have an annual election that's held the second Monday in April. Commissioners elected for a 3-year term, and they're a staggered term, so there's always 1 year that there's a commissioner up for re-election. The current terms that are expiring, and when they expire, is Bill Martin is next up, 2020, Ron Wetmore, 2021, and John Harrington, 2022. He was just elected this year as another 3-year term. Our annual meeting is held the fourth Wednesday in April. Our moderator over the past few years has been Attorney James Hall. Our annual budget is approved at this meeting. Our annual budget for fiscal year 2020 is $5 million, as well as our articles. And I would like to outline that the articles that we submit for approval on an annual basis are part of our very robust 5-year capital plan that Bob and I review every year to try to update a 5-year plan so that we really understand our expenditures as they're coming down the line. The next bullet is a bullet that the commission is very proud of. The district is a member of Middlesex Retirement System, and currently, as of this year, we're fully funded for both our OPEB and our retirement accounts. So we're paying our assessments, but we're fully funded. The commission had the wherewithal in fiscal year 2014 to start putting extra money towards this real gap that we had in our Middlesex retirement and OPEB to make sure that we were going to be financially secure for our retirees and our current employees. So we found out this year that we're fully funded, and now from here on in, the annual budget will be through our assessments. So it's something we're really proud of. The district has an independent actuarial review on an annual basis to review assumptions on future years. And then I wanted to highlight that the district has a credit rating of AA+, which is the same as the town, which allows us, if we did need to go out to debt, lower interest, and we're proud of that fact. So kind of a little bit of an overview in my organization on our billing. We have 8,475 accounts that we bill. And out of that is 7,885 residential and 590 business and industrial. We also have municipal accounts that we service for the town and for the district, but those aren't included in these numbers. The way that we bill is we break down these 8,475 accounts into 3 different routes, and each route is read once a month, about 2,500 accounts every month, so you can imagine how busy we are on a monthly basis, reading, rereading, putting it into our system, and we look at variances in those numbers so that we can contact the homeowners at least a month in advance to their bill to let them know something looks not right. It looks like your billing might be way higher than expected, and we make an appointment for our meter reader to go into those homes and do a data download that will show 3 months prior activity, which might highlight to the homeowner that they may have a leak, an intermittent leak, that they need to get it fixed. And it's really a great program that we work very closely with the residents, and we're really proud of that. And then when we're done all our meter readings every month, we send our meter readings over to the town of Chelmsford Sewer Department for their billing. So each group is billed on a quarterly basis. So as I say, we read every month, but everybody gets a bill only once a quarter. We bill in 1,000-gallon intervals. Our rates were effective January 1st, 2016, and we have a 4-tiered structure where we do a conservative approach, that the lowest amount is those that conserve water, because we're always being held to be conservative in our water. And we also do not have a minimum charge to the residents. So what they use is what they pay for. There's no minimum charge. Customers have the ability to set up accounts online at City Hall Systems, and the website is indicated there, where they can see current balances. Updates can be sent. We send updates from our accounting system every day to this vendor. So every time somebody goes on the system, they can see all current activity that happens in our office. They can sign up for paperless billing and email notifications. And in addition, the customers can pay their bills online with an ACH transaction, which is 50 cents, or a credit card, which is 2.95% of the bill. So people like to have that. We have people that like to come into our office because we have a huge candy bowl that one of the commissioners fills. So there's various ways, the post office, that people can pay their bills. And This one, I had worked with John Souza at the time when we selected City Hall systems, so it's the same as the town, and it makes it convenient for the residents of Chelmsford to not have two different systems that they're using. So we have a really great relationship with John Souza's department, and we work closely with them to kind of stay online with them. Final water readings are done on Tuesdays and Thursdays and processed and forwarded to the sewer department for their billing. Okay. This is one area that I wanted to highlight that we have, that are our current proactive projects. And in order to keep all our processes and policies current, as well as keep our annual funding flat, that's my mission, is year over year. I like to see our budget stay the same or go down as best as we can. So if we're always kind of looking at a proactive approach as opposed to a reactionary, that all of a sudden there's something that happened and we need to raise all this money and go out to debt. We have a team of staff members that meets on a weekly basis with Bob and I, and we highlight certain projects every year that we want to kind of highlight and look at and pay extra attention to. And right now, our current proactive replace projects is the meter replacement program, where we have set up a rolling plan to replace water meters based on their age. And we have a whole program where we go out and we send letters to the residents that over a couple of weeks that we say, can we get into the house, can we do this? And then we replace their meters. And then that way we have a meter account in our annual budget that stays stable, and we don't all of a sudden get to a year where we're like, oh my gosh, all these meters are antiquated, we need to replace 8,400 meters, and how are we going to do that? So we have it rolled out for the next 20 years. It's a really robust program, and we're real proud of that program. The next is one that is highlighted throughout the state of Massachusetts, across the United States, is the aging infrastructure in the water districts and in everyone's town, these aging water districts. So operations team, Bob's team, has started identifying all the aging infrastructure, and we've implemented an annual funding process to fund all these aging infrastructure programs so that we don't need to go out and take out debt. So we put something into our capital program. We're mapping out the oldest infrastructure, and then in addition, our foreman that works the infrastructure replacement works with the town DPW with their paving schedule and any work that they may be doing, so that we don't go out there and do something and then realize that they're coming in and breaking that up, or vice versa. So, one of the things that I'd like to highlight here is that we are always constantly working with the town to make sure, with all of our programs. The Dig Safe program, we just started participating in that a year ago, and it's allowed us to proactively review work that might have an effect on the district, such as installation of irrigation. And this has been a godsend to us because oftentimes people are not pulling permits. So we see it through Dig Safe when they mark that they're doing certain things, and we call them and say, we know you're digging your lawn and you're putting in an irrigation permit, irrigation system, where is the permit? And it alerts them. So we proactively get that money instead of finding out after it's been put in. So this Dig Safe program has been a really, really great program for us. And as I outlined, we have a policy and process team, and we meet weekly and we update all our processes. And we're currently working on an SOP involving standardizing communication between the town planning board and our district to make sure that, we've approved everything that's up, and with the communication and signatures and sign-offs current for that. So that is the end of my portion of the presentation, and Bob's going to show you a little bit more about the operations, and we can take questions at the end. That's okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening. Hi. So in the operations end, the water district, you can see there's the map of the whole district. And in the pink in the upper left-hand corner is North Chelmsford. And and to the right-hand side is the blue area of East Chelmsford. And the Chelmsford Water District is the rest of the whole white area there. So we are about 80% of the town. We have 20 ground wells located all around the town and actually in the other districts. And we are regulated for 3.75 million gallons a day. For our district, we have 3 treatment plants, 3 booster stations, the 5 storage tanks, over 198 miles of water main that we're responsible for. We have the 8,475 service connections, 1,511 hydrants, and we have a solar array at the Crooked Spring plant that does 0.5 megawatts. And going from top left to right, clockwise, on the left-hand side there is our membrane filter system. That's a package plant that we put in the old Smith Street treatment plant that was built in 1964. So it's been upgraded, and we have that as our emergency supply. We use that in the summertime. Run it generally from June 1st till the middle of November. In the middle is the Chelmsford Water District, 20 Watershed Lane. And over to the right is the River Neck Treatment Plant with the aeration tower in the back. The water comes in and goes through an aeration stripper before it goes into the filtration system in the plant before going out to the customers. And down on the right-hand side here is the chemical feed room with the walls for containment. And in the middle, big picture there is the aerial that shows our solar array with the 2,130 solar panels that we have out there that we save quite a bit of money on our electrical charges for all our plants, and we also sell back to the grid. And the far left-hand side is the filtration plant of the 3 filters at River Neck. Crooked Springs exactly the same. That's a green sand filter system. No, it's not going. All right, so this is just a comparison between the district here. So right here is the fire hydrants that East Chelmsford has, north, and then ourselves with the 1,511. Over here, another comparison. Here's our water main, the miles of water main that the water district is in charge of and responsible for as compared to the other districts. And then the service connections between the 8,475 that we have and 2,500 that North has and 660 that East Chelmsford has. Whoops.
Thank you very much.
There we go. The average daily demand, we are up there at about 2 million gallons a day that we usually do in the summertime. And then the withdrawals, like I said, we're allowed to withdraw 3.75 million gallons of water per day. And here's a breakdown from a water management standpoint of our wells and what we pump. So as you can see, it's pretty diverse, and we have water that comes from each one of our wells. The 20 wells are shown here in the area. You can see the percentages we take from certain wells. And it gives you, and we're at 920 million gallons of water a year. This next slide gives us a breakdown of the 2 basins that we're allowed to withdraw our water from. So we have the Concord Basin, which comes out of the River Neck Treatment Plant, and we're allowed over there at 2.02 million gallons a day. And the Merrimack Basin withdrawal, we can withdraw up to 1.73. We have a couple of the wells that you can see here that we rely on more so than others, but we take them down for cleaning, and some are off and some are on, and we try to keep the system at an equal basis. Now, from a water conservation standpoint, we meet the guidelines of the DEP with 65 gallons per day. We're right around 54 million gallons, 53 gallons per day per resident. But as you can see, 78% of our water use comes from our residential, with the smaller portions for our municipal, industrial, and the commercial. And over here is our summer water management program. A lot of people seem to be a little concerned about that because with all the rain and water we've had, why are we out there with level 1? We're mandated by the state. All towns are. And so we're on level 1, and hopefully we'll be able to stay on level 1, where you can use the water every other day from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. or from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we're hoping that we can stay there. Right now, we're 4.58 inches above in precipitation this year than we were at this time last year. And this here is our energy management from our solar array. This is our carbon footprint as to what we're the equivalents. And the bigger point on that is the total energy management. That's our savings for 2018. So that keeps our costs and our for all production down, and that's why we haven't had any rate increases for that reason. The annual water quality report is a report that goes out every year. It is currently online, and we have it also at the town hall, the library, and the senior center, and it's also over at the police station if others want to get it, if they don't get able to get it online at our website. And that's all I have. If there are any questions?
Very well done, Bob.
Thanks, George.
You must have prepared it.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
Why does the water department not allow for irrigation meters?
The deduct meters, it really doesn't help us in the water conservation standard. It's old trade. Someone else is going to have to go out there and read the meters, and report it. There are some grandfathered in. There aren't that many that are still left in town. It went out years ago. I know some towns do use, and if it's his town on both sides, they do have
I get asked that question all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah. I know the answer.
Yep. No, we try to make them conserve the water, knowing that if they're gonna irrigate and put it out on their lawn, we'd rather see them using it for their drinking water and for and for safety reasons for us to have this in the storage tank than watch it go out on the lawn.
Okay.
So you tracks that.
That's a good answer.
Right. Any questions?
I'll ask one more.
Okay.
Those little placards you put up around town that give us the water levels. I don't see those in other towns.
The other parts of town, they have North has some out there, and East has theirs. They're on level 2.
Well, I see them in Chelmsford. I just
Yeah.
don't see them like Westford or Littleton or. You said you're mandated by the state?
Yeah, we're mandated
But
by
are
the
you
state.
mandated to put those signs out or just mandated to be at that level?
Mandated to show it that you have a summer waters repair program. They have to submit that in before May 1st. So everyone puts it in. Whether they put signs out there. Some use, I know in Acton, they got a big billboard thing. You'll see ours, we have ours out there, and it's over in, I believe it's right now at Roberts Field. So, yeah. So we put notices out there about remind people.
Great, thank you.
So it seems like solar is helping you out, but I noticed on the pictures of all of your roofs on your buildings, there are no solar panels.
Not on the roofs, no.
They seem to be fairly clear and open and free of shade. Would solar on your
Right.
roofs help?
Well, we were very fortunate in 2010 to be able to be shovel ready for this for the state. We got all the funding from the state, and their $20 million they had available. So we got $2.93 million, and we put it right on the ground over there. Which I'd rather not see them on the roofs of the buildings, because then you got that maintained and take care of that. But there's always another reach out if it comes available, so we can put it on maybe Smith Street. Things to look at. Any other questions? No?
No.
Bring any samples.
That was me. You can blame me.
What?
Are you thirsty?
Didn't bring any samples.
That was a water sample.
Samples.
We got away from the plastic bottle.
There you go. That's
what happened.
I think, Bob, we do want to take a minute and thank the town for the cooperation with
Yes.
the DPW and
Yeah,
the sewer.
yeah. We do work cooperatively with DPW. We have good routes with my distribution manager and the town's DPW office. And it is critical that we work with them. So when I'm out there trying to do a capital project, that I'm looking down the road to see when the town's going to pave a road. Because if we're going to go out there and we're going to tear it up and change the piping and the infrastructure, we might as well do it at the time when the town is going to be hitting the same area. So it's very helpful, very cooperative. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Next up, we have the MVP grant.
Perfect timing, it's 8 o'clock, right? How about that, Evan? 8 o'clock on the nose.
8 p.m. Now, I have a question. If you put 8 p.m., if we were at 7:50, would we have to wait 10 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
In theory.
Yeah, we would've.
We got other things we gotta do.
Who's this guy?
Do we have yours on PowerPoint, or is it just on
PDF. We can,
Yeah, I think it's
just tell us next slide. We can-
So, good evening. Evan Belansky, Director of Community Development. And the purpose of this evening is a listening session. What that means is part of the state requirement as part of their process is to hold a public listening session to provide the community with a opportunity to hear a presentation and then open up a comment period. So this evening, myself, along with Eric Glass from Beals and Thomas, will provide the presentation, and then we'll take any questions that the board may have. But this is really intended to be an informational presentation to the community prior to announcing the commencement of the comment period. So this process started back in April of 2018, whereby the town applied for a state planning grant. We received $30,000 for this process and an additional $8,000 to update our hazard mitigation plan. We contracted with Beals and Thomas. Since beginning of 2019, we've been working on this process. We will be submitting the final plan in June, and will be eligible for state grants for implementation sometime in the fall round. So as I mentioned, team members for this evening are myself and Eric Glass from Beals and Thomas. And Eric will present the next couple slides.
Thank you, Evan. My name is Eric Glass, principal at the consulting firm Beals and Thomas. I'm going to take about 5 minutes and just give the board and the public an overview of the MVP program. And then I'll turn it back over to Evan to discuss the results that came out of this MVP planning process. Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness is the MVP program. And how this came about was in
This is a test.
Well, he can't control it, so I don't know when you want. You just have to let me know when you want me to advance.
Thank you. In September 2016, the governor, Governor Baker, and then Secretary Matt Beaton were issued Executive Order 569, which established the MVP program, created a framework for the state to start implementing its climate change and resiliency action goals. Next slide, please. The state's vision for the MVP program is a state and local partnership to build resiliency to climate change. This map here shows the communities between 2017 and 2019 that have gone through or are involved in the MVP planning process. The state understood, the financial impact of going through this process, so they created this planning grant program to provide funding to communities to plan for climate change. As Evan noted, Chelmsford received $30,000 to go through this process. The benefit of going through this is that ultimately the state plans to funnel a significant amount of money into this long term as a part of the environmental bond bill. There's millions of dollars every year that is being driven into the MVP planning and action plan grant process. So at this point, we're in the planning stage, and once Chelmsford is a certified MVP community, it will be eligible for action plan grants to implement the results of this process. How the MVP program came about: once the executive order was issued, the state developed a process to train MVP certified facilitators, such as myself, and many other consultants throughout the Commonwealth. At the same time, the state provided funding to communities through the MVP Planning Grant Program. Communities are going through the community resilience building process to develop an action plan. That gets submitted. The municipality becomes a certified community and then is eligible for action plan grants, as I noted. The MVP timeline, as Evan had alluded to, we started this late last year with convening of the stakeholders. Our first workshop was held in February of 2019, second one in March. Here we are at the public listening session tonight in May. The final report is due at the end of June. This evening, the purpose, as Evan had noted, is to present the results of the process that the community has already gone through with stakeholders. This is a public forum for interested members to provide their input now. We're also making the draft summary of findings available to the public before it gets submitted to the state at the end of the month. And just to go over in a little bit more detail the MVP process, we established the core team. At the end of last year, we identified a significant number of stakeholders, prepared materials for these workshops. Beals and Thomas facilitated 2 workshops where the town characterized and identified the top hazards facing the town. Also developed a list of vulnerabilities and strengths. There were quite a few strengths already in place here in Chelmsford, which is very beneficial. And then through the second workshop, after looking at the vulnerabilities and strengths, there was the identification and prioritization of community actions. Evan will touch upon those in a little more detail. Then out of all of those, basically prioritizing and ranking them to determine the overall priority. The reason why that's important is that the top priorities are those items that would be most eligible for action plan grants moving forward. As part of this process as well, Chelmsford will be preparing a hazard mitigation plan update. The last plan was done as part of the NIMCOG regional plan in 2015, but the state did provide funding because that process is so similar to the MVP process. It makes sense for a lot of communities, depending on where they are in their HMP updating process, to update their HMP at the same time as they go through the MVP process. So the HMP update provides FEMA funding, having an updated plan there, and the MVP process provides funding for climate change actions to be implemented. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Evan to talk about the workshops and the results that came out of that process.
Okay, so as Eric mentioned, we held 2 workshops with a core working group. There were approximately 20 town officials that were marking up maps and brainstormed as the facilitation by Beals was underway. So the purpose of the first workshop was to define extreme weather and natural climate-related hazards, as well as identify existing and future vulnerabilities and strengths. And here's the purpose of the second workshop as well. Next slide, please. So this list indicates all of the identified stakeholders. However, the ones that attended that were within the core group were the town manager, Board of Selectmen, police, fire, engineering, public works, public facilities, building department, Board of Health, energy management, community development, conservation, senior center, school administration, and NIMCOG. I believe, Pat, you may have attended the first one, and Emily, I believe you attended the second one. What we intend to do with the remaining stakeholders is starting tomorrow, I'll be doing a direct email invite to invite these other stakeholders within the community to review and comment on the draft plan. Next slide. So this is primarily for those at home who may be interested in providing input. The core team spent some time understanding the associated definitions, which are important as you go through the exercise. So hazard, risk, vulnerability, and action are all definitions that you need to pay particular attention to as you move forward. So the core working group identified several high-ranked hazards. These include severe storms such as ice and snow, flooding, in particular the Mother's Day flood of '06, fluctuations in temperature, recent windstorms, and environmental pollution due to highways and rail that bisect the community. So in addition, the core group identified top priorities to improve resiliency. These are primarily related to infrastructure, societal, and environmental. I'll just go over a couple of them. Obviously, and the number one was to install generators at important facilities. The Adams Library was identified as one of the few remaining public facilities that does not have a standby generator. Number two was related to infrastructure, to assess many of the town's bridges, culverts, dams, and stormwater infrastructure systems. Number three was related to first response and emergency shelters, and creating an inventory and making sure that those are properly sized. Next one was related to improving communications with the public when there's a hazard situation, working with National Grid and property owners to maintain trees along right-of-ways, continue working with DPW on their tree program. Next one has been successfully implemented, the Merrimack Riverbank stabilization. And invasive species removal and public education is ongoing. That appears continuously in the Conservation Commission Open Space and Rec Master Plan. Several others. The next one's related to Age-Friendly Initiative, working within that process to create a database and process to track elderly community members in case of an emergency situation. A couple others here. The town meeting, this past town meeting was successful at hiring a social worker. That should enhance outreach to vulnerable populations within the community. I believe you have a Board of Selectmen goal of improving the use of social media accounts for purposes of town education and communication. And the last one of the last ones is related to DPW and Phase 2 stormwater, which I believe is underway via the most recent town meeting vote. So wrapping up here fairly quickly, as I mentioned, tonight's purpose is to provide the community with the location and opportunity to review the document. This is the full report in addition to the PowerPoint from this evening. So the link to the document is already live on the town website. You can find that from the homepage as well as this direct link. We're asking that comments be submitted by June 17th, 2019 to myself, E. Belansky at townofchelmsford.us. So as I mentioned, the purpose of tonight's session was to present the process, methodology, and request for public comments. Next slide. So after June 17th, there'll be a series of next steps. Beals and Thomas will incorporate the feedback into the final report. They'll prepare the final edition of the updated hazard mitigation plan. Those plans will be submitted to the state for designation as a MVP community. As Eric mentioned, the HMP plan will be submitted to MEMA and FEMA for review and comments. The final hazard mitigation plan appears to require approval from the Board of Selectmen. which will set us up nicely for applying to the MVP Action Grant sometime this summer or early fall for the next funding round. And the anticipated categories for action grants fall into vulnerability and risk assessment, local bylaw and ordinance improvements, engineering and construction projects, environmental and ecological restoration projects, as well as nature-based solutions to reduced vulnerability. So at this point, Eric and I will be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. And as I mentioned, all this information is on the town's website, and I will begin to do direct email notification to other stakeholders, as well as continue to post the comment period over the next couple of weeks to the community.
So Evan, the action grants would help fund the recommendations?
Fund the recommendations, correct. Correct. So as I mentioned, the process to date was core group driven. Those are primarily made up of town officials. So we believe that we've identified the appropriate goals and objectives. However, obviously, having public review and comment to verify or identify other potential hazards and vulnerabilities is what the public comment process is for.
What other means besides this meeting are you using to let people know that you're open for public comment?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I will continue to do probably weekly news flashes via the town website. I will also post to several of the Chelmsford Facebook pages and direct email notification to the other stakeholders on the list.
How are you identifying projects for invasive species removal? I'm thinking specifically of that bamboo-like plant I've heard 10 different names for it. But,
bittersweet.
The main one seems to be Japanese knotweed.
Yep.
And then oriental bittersweet, and then Canadian geese, who are wrecking my beach.
So as one of the eligible actions for the grant is to do a study feasibility. So there could be an opportunity to establish a pilot program. Several years ago, a previous conservation agent applied for a grant and conducted a pilot program growing a certain species of beetles that eats one of the invasives and release them in a particular area. So there's a variety of examples, and that may be one of several grant opportunities that the town submits.
Would that trigger a series of get a larger thing to eat the first thing?
So I don't know too much about it.
House of cookies sort of situation.
But I think to your point, it's an item that has been identified as a need, and maybe the next step is to apply for one of these grants to hire a consultant to try to put a plan and program in place that's manageable, for the community.
I have questions I've had sent to me, but are you contacting residents specifically of floodplains and floody areas where you're going to see?
I'm not aware that the town has ever made contact for property owners within a floodplain. That's primarily done via FEMA and when you apply for a mortgage or any type of real estate transaction.
Yeah, flood insurance, I'm
Correct.
sure.
Correct.
I wonder if outreach to those folks who are at most risk of the Merrimack overflowing or of wetlands.
It's a good point. I know we do have within the hazard mitigation plan and the emergency response plan, there are procedures and protocols to provide notification. I'm not intimately familiar with that plan, but I will follow up on that.
I just wonder about, in the spirit of conducting a public listening session, identifying the people who are at risk of all of the things you are identifying in the work sessions. I mean, I can think of a couple of stands of Japanese knotweed in my area. Varney Park is overrun with them, but I was walking my kids home on Gay Street today, and I was watching along the side of the road. I could see little bits coming up here and there, you know, so I mean, it's coming up into people's lawns. I've got Oriental bittersweet in my backyard. I keep trying to pull it out. You know, so how do you identify stands of this and then get to the people who are dealing with it?
Right. It's a good question. I think it's a two-pronged approach. I could see a town public initiative where the town targets invasives that are clogging up stormwater management systems. And then on the public side, it's probably a lot of education and then providing the tools for a private property owner to manage those invasives. Did you have anything to add? Okay.
Any other questions?
No? Okay. So if the board would like, I mean, at some point in the future, I could circle back with the board and kind of update the board when we get designation from the state and prior to pursuing a state action grant.
So one more question, just kind of as you're talking about that. So the recommendations that are in here, you apply for an action grant. Would there ever be the situation where there wasn't enough from the state on an action grant, will you then come to the town looking for money?
I mean, there's always need for additional funds. Invasives, could be a good example, but on the the items that we've identified as needing to take action, we believe that the state grant program would cover those specific action items.
Okay.
An example, installing a generator.
Yep. Okay.
Eric's telling me that the state program does require a 20% match. So ideally, match would be worked into existing capital. I believe the generator's already on a capital list.
What about like something like the Hart Pond boat ramp?
Yeah, exactly. So that would be, if that's not on a current list and not in a funding pipeline, that would be something that the town would have to identify an appropriate funding, 20% match.
Okay.
So again, I think this is a multi-year, as Eric said, I think it's a multi-year grant program.
Did the grants go away at some point?
No, it started, I think the first round of grants for action went out last year.
Just the end of last year. And there was one round, the applications were received just recently, which is tricky for the communities that are in the planning process right now. I don't know why the state didn't stagger it a bit more so that communities that were just coming out of the planning process could apply. But communities that went through the planning process last year just submitted their applications for action plan grants recently. But we were told that there is going to be another series coming out later this summer and into the fall for the communities that are in the process right now, like Chelmsford is. And obviously going forward, and there's a number of recommendations that came out of the workshops. Not all of this is intended to be done in any year. It's a multi-year effort, right? So the appropriations for that matching can be planned out, in future years. But there is quite a bit of money. There is like a $2 million per community cap, each year on the action plan grants. So there is significant dollars available.
So what's our plan for the first grant that you're going to request? Is that this year?
That would be the intent, provided that the match funding is available for one of the three top action items that came out of the process. So that is the thing that the draft summary that's linked in the presentation here. One of the things that the state's going to look at when they receive an action plan grant application is, does that application seek to implement one of the top measures? So invasive species, for example, while it is certainly a very high priority and it was categorized as that coming out of the workshops, it's not one of the top three priorities. So the likelihood that the state would fund that may be lower than if it was one of the top three priority items that came out of the actual workshops that were held.
So if we did make the attempt to get the full, you said it's $2 million per year per town?
Correct.
Not per town.
It's not per town?
No, that's the total funding available, right?
Well, we're working with the town of Hingham currently, and they've provided matching funding to go after $2 million themselves, so.
That's the max, that's the maximum award per.
2 million for the
is
whole
the
state
maximum-
is
Right,
pocket
that's the maximum award per
change.
community is
That-
2
that-
No,
million.
I'm just-
that's a joke.
But statewide, it's not
Yeah.
351 cities and towns times 2 million. It's not $700 million
No.
available, right?
No, but I'm just
No,
curious,
there-
though.
Maximum award. right.
Nope, that's correct. That is the maximum award, but there's only, not even 50% of the state has gone through as a certified community yet.
So I'm just curious, though, like, would we be on track to try to go after $2 million of grant money this year? Or is that out of reach?
You'd have to have a project. For example, a lot of this was due to global warming and the climate issues. So the initial set of communities were on the coast. So for example, if we were building a seawall and along a coastal community, you could probably get $2 million. The other area was out, remember, in Western Mass when they had the terrible flooding that came down. And so they were dealing with those areas. In Chelmsford, the big one's essentially been done, as Evan noted earlier. The whole Williamsburg riverbank erosion project sort of we're ahead of that. And that's sort of been the critical flooding area from the experience that the police and fire and Board of Health, everyone has had. We don't have a lot of those type of areas across the community, so I can't readily say, oh, yeah, here's a $2 million grant, we can get high priority from the state.
This is why I suggested, right after we get designation and prior to developing our first grant request, staff can circle back with the board, make a presentation. In the meantime, I can work with DPW on assessments of town infrastructure, try to get that working list up and running, match it up with the capital.
Right, and that's fine. I guess I was trying to circle back to Paul. I mean, where it's a 20% match, would we have the resources available to match?
Sure.
Okay.
We would.
That's really, that's what I was trying to get
Yeah,
to.
I think that's the beauty of the 5-year capital.
Yep.
Working with John Souza and his committee.
There's a bad area between Davis and Pilgrim, you know, we went into the, we got the easement on the farm. We dug that out. Now, was it cat o' nine tails? Is it the cat o' nine tails, or is that a?
That would not be invasive,
It's not.
cattails.
All right, so how do we go in there and take care of that? Is there any way we can do that? I mean, because the people getting flooded again.
Right, so that'd be an example of what Emily was referring to, having to do a kind of a town-wide assessment and priority of areas to target for invasives.
But back to George's question, if it's not an invasive issue, but it's a flooding issue,
That qualifies.
that qualifies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It does qualify, yeah. I mean, the town has easements or works with property owners to obtain easements to do drainage maintenance.
I mean, they had like 4 feet of water
Oh,
in their
absolutely,
cellar a few
sure.
times. I don't know if you remember, but we did it about 6 years ago when we first did it.
I remember the PowerPoint.
But now it's all
presentation.
grown back in again, and it's
Right.
mostly, they say they're really brutal to take out. I don't know, I never.
Right.
Yep. That was the number 2 item that was prioritized, was assessing local bridges, culverts, dams, inspecting existing stormwater infrastructure, and implementing roadside low-impact development in an effort to mitigate flash flooding. So that likely would qualify.
There's plenty of that around town.
Yeah.
So Evan,
I know he had like $20,000 worth of damage to his house the last time.
so at some point, would you have another workshop or something if you maybe in a couple of years or something, to reprioritize the remaining items on the list if the first 3 are knocked off the list in a not
Yeah, I
too
think
distant
so.
future?
That's a good idea. And this whole concept and theme will be wrapped into the update of the master plan.
Okay.
So I could see this remaining on the radar screen for multiple boards and committees.
Yeah, if the money continues to be available,
Exactly.
obviously you want to keep it on top of the list, yeah.
I would think that planning board would have a good idea of a lot of areas to focus on and look at.
Yeah, one of the elements that's somewhat related to this is creating regulation complementary to Phase 2 stormwater or low-impact development to address some of the existing hazards, such as flooding and erosion, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Okay, great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're on to town manager bid awards.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 4 items for the board's approval this evening. The first one is for the parking lot expansion at the Center School and the Harrington School. Public Works put this project out to bid. There were 6 bids received for this work, and the low bid was from Family Paving, and the total bid price is $386,900. So I'd seek the board's confirmation of the bid award for the Center School and Harrington School parking lot expansion projects to Family Paving at the bid price. And as you said, we had 7 bids total, and you can see the variance in prices. So the DPW checked our references and so forth, and we're ready to proceed and get this work done during the summer break.
What was it in the budget for?
The budget total was just over $400,000. And there's some work beyond, just the straight paving that goes on with that.
Yep.
But that's what we had for paving, was about $400,000 for paving.
So you're recommending the?
Yes,
Family
seeking the board's confirmation of the bid award to Family Paving for $386,900.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award to Family Paving for the paving at Center School and Harrington School for a total of $386,900.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one is for municipal building cleaning services. Contracted cleaners, you occasionally pass them when you're in this building. There, we also had 7 proposals received for the RFP, and you can see that was a little more, tightly bunched, but the recommended award is the low bidder, which is the low qualified bidder, Transcend Maintenance Services at $27,660.
So how long is this for, a year?
That would be for a 3-year period.
So that's
per
each
year?
year?
It's a first-year price. Yeah, that's a per-year price.
Does it go up a given amount every
Goes up,
time?
it has a right to go up by an inflation factor for the next remaining 2 years.
Have we ever used them before?
No, we have not.
The inflation factor, is it set, or do they use the
It's set
CPI?
by CPI.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for cleaning services at the town offices and DPW facility to Transcend Maintenance Services.
I just have one question. What is our current cleaning service?
The current, I'm trying to think what the current vendor is. I don't recognize them at all on this list. I don't think they bid on this
Oh.
project.
Goodness. All right.
Do you know what currently you're paying?
It's around $30,000 is what we're paying currently.
Right. Well, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next one is natural gas supply. That's for heating purposes. It's a 3-year contract. The contract would begin this July. There were 3 bids received. The lowest qualified bid for the 3-year contract was Direct Energy Power Options, which is our current vendor. And so the bid prices there is .5611 per therm, and that's the bid price, and that's 4% below our current bid price.
So that would be constant over the 3 years, is
Yeah,
that correct?
Yeah, that's a fixed price for a 3-year period.
Questions? Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for natural gas supplies for the next 3 years to Direct Energy Power Options at the price of .5611.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then the final one is for the golf course 9th hole reconstruction. I'm going to let Michael address this one since he handled the direct procurement of this project.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We sent out bids in April, and we received quite a number of inquiries, but when we opened bids last week, we only received packages from 2 qualified and responsive bidders. That was DHT Golf Services as well as NMP Golf Construction. The base bid for DHT Services was $65,247.60. The alternate bid was for additional fill to build up the 9th hole. When you added that together, they had the lowest total price. So I'm recommending through the manager that we award the bid to DHT Golf Services. We may also have the opportunity to get some fill from our DPW, which may actually lower the alternate bid by the time everything is said and done.
So any idea why the bids were so disparate?
I actually talked to Kevin Osgood a little bit. He was pleasantly surprised to see that DHT came in. He just said that in the past it's been DHT who's been a little bit high, but he said that he was worked with DHT in the past and he thought that it was a good price and he was happy to see it. So he believes that it was based on their bid. They had a bid sheet with individual items and individual unit costs associated with it. He thinks it just came down that theirs was higher based on what they priced each individual item out at.
They're gonna do this during the season? Are you gonna wait till the season's over, or what are they gonna do?
Actually, the plan is to start in August, right about August 1st, and they have a deadline to get it, I want to say, sodded and seeded in certain portions before the first frost, a couple weeks before. So in late September, they're supposed to have everything done and seeded and sodded where appropriate.
So Paul, this money, does this come out of the Golf Course Enterprise Fund?
Yes.
Yeah, that was previously approved at town meeting
Right.
from the enterprise fund, so it's not from the property tax levy.
Right. I just want people to.
Yep.
So the leagues will have to do
They'll have
just
a
8?
temporary hole. There'll be a
Oh,
shorter hole.
okay, all right, I thought maybe they do just 8 holes.
No, they
Yeah,
won't
they
do
were
it.
actually starting to work on it when we went out for the site walk. Fred Murray, who's the head greenskeeper, he was actually going to start to create a green at about 20 plus or minus yards south of the existing hole, so that when the bid was awarded, they could just start tearing up everything else, and they would just move the pin and everything down to the new green.
So it'll become a part 2. All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the town manager's bid award for the 9th hole reconstruction to DHT Golf Services for a total price not to exceed $83,903.60.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Paul, quick question for you. In the future, do you think we could just get an email of when there be bid openings, just so we want to come and watch them?
Sure. If they're formalized bid opens, we can do that, sure. Oftentimes, some things are quotes, but we can do that when we do a formalized opening like he did on the materials, sure, for the
If I'm
ninth
kicking
hole.
around town, I'll come in and watch it.
Okay,
I've never
sure.
seen one, and
Okay.
I'd like to see it. Thank you. Town manager reports?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got 4 items for your consideration under formal reports this evening, and one of which I'll have Michael handle in terms of the traffic issue. The first one is I'm pleased to formally notify the board, and I guess formally notify the community, that the town of Chelmsford has been accepted into the Age-Friendly Communities Program. Chelmsford is the 368th community to enroll in the AARP network of age-friendly communities. I think, credit should go to Fred Brasso, who just, quarterbacked this thing and drove it with all, and continues to lead this effort. The committee meets monthly, usually the last Wednesday morning of the month over at the senior center. And this really is a milestone because, it was really an effort to pull all the application materials together and, police, fire, everybody, pulling everything in from service agencies and so forth. So it's this is valid through for a couple of years till 2021. As you may recall, the governor is very much behind this program. I think Massachusetts was the second state to declare its efforts to become an age-friendly state. And so again, this will help us along the way in terms of receiving the support and then undertaking projects and initiatives to improve age-friendly initiatives in the community to help people of all ages live and stay in the community. So that was a bit of great news since our last meeting.
Well, note that it's 368th in the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't be in the state.
Well, I know that, but I want people to know. I mean, that's cutting edge, not reactive.
Exactly.
Different.
So the next item I have for my report, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike. This has to do with the June 12th listening session regarding town traffic issues. And
Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so At one of our last meetings, we had a discussion about the traffic situation in North Chelmsford. As you may know, Selectman Dixon asked me to try and speak to some of the residents, and they had indicated they wanted to provide some feedback to the board. Mr. Chairman, you had indicated that we should have a public forum for input. So I have secured the senior center on June 12th from 7:10 p.m. And I have invited some of the previous speakers to be on hand should anybody need to have any information. I've also asked NIMCOG to try and do some counts in advance so that we would have some current data. But I just wanted to see if there was anything else you wanted me to include as part of an agenda before I post this. It will be 3 weeks from this Wednesday, so I'm going to start putting some news flashes, publication. I'll speak to the local print media as well and utilize the social media to advertise it. But I didn't know if there was anything else specifically you wanted me to address that evening or put on as an agenda item.
Any input?
As I understand it, it's a combination of letting people speak or raise concerns and informing them of status and what we're able to do, what we have interdependencies with the state or other places on.
I'm doing my best to have
So
some of the
it's kind of,
speakers
it's
there,
kind of a
yes.
blend of
Yes.
that.
If
correct?
there is information we have on hand based on the updated counts I'm anticipating from NIMCOG, as well as some of the feedback to my anticipated questions from the DOT, I would be happy to provide them that evening.
I will say that I had, in a separate, conversation here in Town Hall with Mike, I had said, I thought a better way of doing it was to have a session where everybody came in and expressed the different hot spots, their concerns, whether it's noise, it's traffic, odor, things like that. Have a little bit of backup of what you could do, not really having maybe the answers to all the questions that night, but then we could put that all down on a list of what the big concerns are, and then have a second meeting where we actually go over what can be done.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just, if there's areas that we've already been working, I think it would make sense to let people know.
Right. I just don't want to get them caught off the cuff with a
No.
shoot from the hip sort of answer.
No.
Yeah.
I think we take the input and go and look at what we do with it, but if there has been work done, I think we should communicate what's been done.
Okay.
Something that may have been promised like last year that it would be done in spring, and then it was a late spring because of the weather and everything else too. But, for example, the Groton Road and Main Street intersection there, I think that some of the people from the DPW went up there and said that they would try to, it was gonna be a pretty, it was not something that could be done in a day or two, you know what I mean?
Well, I can let you know that they started, DPW was repaving the end of Swain Road at Groton where there had been a divot where we had a lot of complaints that it was generating truck noise. I went out the other day, they had done all the grindings. I haven't been back to see the finished product, but I received contact from some of the neighbors that they were pleased to see that had started. So some of the improvements, we had to wait till we got the additional monies, but we also had to wait for, the seasons to change as well as the weather to improve.
Weather's been terrible for that, so.
One other note, touching on that is, I've gotten a lot of calls about potholes. There is a list on the DPW website of the streets that are going to be ground, and the process is usually they grind all the streets one at a time, and then they come back and pave. They don't grind, pave, grind, pave, grind. So, I get calls, well, they ground the street, and it's been 3 days when they're going to pave it. And I'm like, well, can you have some patience? We grind all the streets, then we pave all the streets. If you want to know if your street's on the list, check the DPW website.
Yeah, and we're waiting, there's a transportation bond bill for Chapter 90 before the Senate this week. The House has already passed theirs. We're hoping that those annual monies will be free. That's the 1.2 million we get annually. We're hoping that'll be freed up as soon as possible, but hopefully by mid-June, so that we can get something done this season. Then there's also been discussions about, since the state seems to be running a very healthy surplus, that they might do like they did last year and provide a supplemental, one-time funding. So we're monitoring things to get the roads going.
When we do the grinding of the roads and the paving, we're bringing in an outside company
Yes,
for the grinding?
for the grinding, yeah.
So, I guess it would have been great if the money came through when they were here, but.
Yeah, right, but no, we bid that annually in terms
Yeah,
of
no, I
grinding
understand.
services. Okay, all right.
Same people who are gonna pave that do the grinding now, don't they? A lot of
Generally, yeah.
A Some of that grinding goes back into the mix.
Into the mix,
Right?
right?
So
But
that's,
some of it
that's
gets,
figured
mo-
into
some
the
of it gets
bid, right?
recycled. Some of it also gets recycled and get into the bid, other areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the change in town office hours open to the public on weekdays for our hours of operation. This one we're really seeking to improve service to the public, and one of the things that we see in other communities and has been suggested over time is we don't have evening hours open to the public. So we've discussed this at a few department heads in the last few months, and then we looked around at other communities, and what we'll be implementing on July 1st would be to be open in the evenings till 7 p.m. On Tuesday evenings. So right now, our normal office hours to the public are 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday. And what would happen is we would open 8:30 to 4 Monday through Thursday. We would stay open till 7 on Tuesday evening, and then the 3 hours would then be transferred from 1 to 4 on Friday. So that's in talking to other communities, they found it to be successful. What they also told us is it takes a little while to catch on and get adjusted. Because we often hear from people as well, I can't get by the town hall to get pick up a birth certificate or to, see the building inspector and so forth. And given the traffic situation, it's even really difficult for people to try to sneak out and get home. So we think that by staying open on Tuesday evenings, that will work. And Tuesday seemed to be the most popular evening when we looked around at other communities that were similar to us in terms of what night might work. You want to stay away from Mondays because there's too many Monday holidays. And obviously you're not going to do Friday evenings, and so you're sort of limited to that Tuesday through Thursday corridor. And Tuesday seems to be the prevalent night. So we're gonna launch it, and we think we think that it'll help, for people to come in the assessing period and so forth, that there'll be an opportunity for people to come in. So offices that are open to the public, such as clerk's office, collector, assessor, manager's office, so forth, will be open. What you won't see open on a Tuesday evening is the accounting office or the IT office. I mean, it's really offices that serve the public. So again, we'll do our best to publicize it, make it known. We think by starting at the beginning of the fiscal year, that once things kick into the fall, when everyone comes back from the summer and is back into gear, that it'll start becoming entrenched. And we think, again, it'll be an enhancement. We're always looking, as we say, is we're now, as I keep saying, and I've said at town meeting and other places, we're now heading into the third decade of the 21st century, and so we think that this might be a tweak that may better serve the public, given the realities of particularly two-parent working households. So.
Okay.
That. And then the final item is a suggestion from the chairman. I have provided for you a meeting schedule that sort of has milestones. So it's sort of, as Ken was suggesting, well, what are the things that are coming up in terms of the board's regular schedule that occur annually, and you can see, it's again obviously not comprehensive, but it's sort of those regular items that we sort of regularly take place annually. So again, on the 17th of June, you do the town accountant and the town manager performance appraisals. The end of July is the first draft of the following town meeting warrant. We always know the deadline for citizen petition articles, the first Monday in August. The first Monday in September, you sign the following town meeting warrant, so forth. So we hope that this is sort of helpful to either the public and the board members in terms of, things that unveil itself in the regular course of events.
Since this is on there about the performance appraisals for June 17th,
Yeah.
what is the deadline for us to get those to June?
28th, I thought.
Yeah, I think it can be a little later because
That's what I thought.
Jeannie wasn't able to accommodate the effort to get it on the June 3rd meeting. We'll certainly be able to pull it together to you for the 17th meeting. So you can have them by the end of this month, and I think it'll even creep over because Jeannie's not going to be back from her vacation till I think the second week
We
of June.
didn't want to pressure her. We were
Right.
just, trying to figure out what would work.
Well, your other choices, if you still want it done by then, I could take all of them in and consolidate them down to one.
Whatever the board's prefer.
Does that violate open? No.
Only if he shares it with
I
somebody
can't share it
else.
with anybody.
So if you're just compiling.
Only one person can
Right,
compile
one
it. It
person
has to
can
remain
compile.
quiet until the meeting.
Okay.
And just to take it off of Jeannie's plate if she's...
Whatever the board prefers.
whatever you want.
I'm fine with leaving it with Jeannie. Give us a few extra days to get it done, and if we have till the end of this month, yeah, I think that'd be
It
good.
did take a few extra days to get it to us,
Yeah,
too,
right.
so.
So due by the end of this month, May 31. Okay.
That's the end of my report this evening. I do have a couple of appointments for your confirmation there. To the Council on Aging, I'm seeking the confirmation of the appointments of Amy O'Grady and Jennifer Hardy to the Council on Aging for unexpired terms that would end on June 30th, 2020. These both were alternate members, so they're now filling full seats on the board.
So this is incorrect on the agenda then, that's not, because I thought Jennifer Hardy was an associate member. It says associate member.
Oh, they're supposed to be, they're currently associate members, they're becoming full members.
Okay. So
I'm
they're
sorry,
both-
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the town manager's appointments of Amy O'Grady and Jennifer Hardy to the Council on Aging as a full member.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have we're going to revisit the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager's goals, and I may have to punt on this tonight because I think I was supposed to break this into two separate lists, or I did break it into two lists, but I didn't get it out in time for the agenda, and then there were some other pieces that we're going to lay out, so I think I'm going to, unless anybody wants to talk about it tonight, push it off till the next meeting.
Next meeting's
Fine.
fine.
Actually, I did have a question about licensing and regulating brew pubs, since you guys
Yep.
mentioned that I should be working on that. I was looking around, and it seems to me that a lot of those are covered in zoning regulations already. It's a light industrial classification, and we have rules for that in place. So I'm wondering what specifically you're looking for, aside from just the rules that apply to light industrial, and it's, wastewater management and.
No, I was thinking more things that we would regulate.
Like what?
Like hours of operation.
Why would that be different from any other liquor
I
license
don't
in
know.
town?
I don't know, but
Volume
maybe
that
it
they
would.
brew.
The volume that they brew, yeah.
That's really specific to a.
I think you just wanted an opportunity to think through whether we need one. I don't know.
Just some more guidance would be helpful, just to get an idea, because looking at what other towns, it is just a light industrial
I mean, how
situation.
much we charge, the license fee, things like that.
What do we charge for?
I don't know. I'm just telling you things
Okay.
that come to
Okay.
mind that I would look at if I were going to be doing it.
Okay.
But anyway.
Well, with that said, would it be helpful if maybe, Emily, you run ideas past Pat, you give her feedback on other topics, and maybe.
Call any time.
Okay.
Some hours are noisier than others at my house.
All right.
But I think this was sort of your idea, and then with Emily, your background, the two of you said, yes, let's do this, so
Okay.
pair up. Was there anything else on that list that anybody else thought of that they did want to add tonight before I just take the
The
current
list
one
of,
the goals and objectives? I think
There were a couple of things that we've kind of, offhand, casually mentioned, I guess you could say, during board members. And one was something that I had brought up one time when we were doing an appointment, doing appointments, about possibly looking through all the committees that we have and see if it might make some sense to consolidate some of them. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at any of those, Paul, if you had any thoughts on anything like that, because as has been mentioned, we read quite a lengthy list of.
Do you want it to be a Paul goal or a Board of Selectmen goal?
Well, I think it should be a both, given that some committees are appointed by us, some are appointed by Paul, and I know some you can't do anything with, like the Cultural Council is defined by state law, but there might be others, that, like the Recycling Committee and Energy Conservation, that make sense to combine.
But speaking to people on the recycling committee, they feel like that's two different focus. Like, you've got two different foci, and so they're doing different things, and they have their tasks, and this is, so, I mean, my only, you know, note that I keep sounding is that community outreach is a big deal, and getting more people engaged is a big deal. And if we're having trouble filling these, it's not that in a town of 34,000 people, we don't have people who are interested in these positions. It's that they're not hearing that these positions are out there. So,
So maybe that's part of that, is consolidation of committees / publicization of
Maybe it's
committees.
part of the civic, the thing that we have.
I mean, I will say, I'm not knocking the people in the civic committee now, but I did send an email out. I got one response. 2 didn't respond. If I have their correct email addresses, I tried to call. There was, you know,
I mean, the website is really hard to read sometimes. It is hard to find the information you're looking for, depending on what it is. And that is a huge barrier. And there are times when I go looking and I'm on my phone and I give up and go to my desktop because it is easier on the actual browser than messing around with menus that don't shrink and don't move aside and are not mobile friendly.
I agree with her.
I mean, it's really frustrating, and a lot of people are mainly on the mobile, and I have a lot of tech in my house because that was my husband's former occupation, so we have a lot of tech, but, you know.
So maybe the goal
So
should be.
should we provide inputs to you before the next meeting of?
Yeah, well, I have gotten input from other members of the board. I mean, you've sent me a few that you want
Right.
on there, and that's fine. And if anybody else has inputs, other goals that if I can consolidate them down to common ones, then I will, and then we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
And there was one other, the process and how we go about officially changing the name of this board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, to select board.
Yeah, there's a rumor that I can just make a motion, so I make a motion, then we become the select board, and we are
I don't
all
think it
select
works
board
that
members.
way. I mean,
And then there are
nothing
people who are
else.
saying, no, there's a process, so we need to know.
Well, yeah, well, it's a charter.
Is it a charter
It's a
change?
charter
The
change.
charter
It's a
change,
What
so
does it
that's
take
not
to
a
change the
motion.
charter?
And you gotta change your bylaws too, the language in your bylaws, because your bylaws refer to
It's
Board of
not
Selectmen.
insignificant, unfortunately.
It's doable, it's been done.
Yeah.
I mean, Brighton went through this a
Right.
couple years back.
Right.
My former
It can get
physics
done,
teacher
and
sent
probably
me the
looking at
video.
fall town meeting is what you,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
attainable.
happened
Well, I
in
think what
Brighton.
Emily's saying, she wants to rewrite it for you, so just give her the document. Have her-
Well, it's just.
I mean, it'll take, I mean, like,
Yeah,
it can't
it's-
possibly be that long of a change. It's gonna be like 3 words here or there, you know?
Yeah, but it's a lot of places.
Anywhere it says it.
Okay, so find and replace. Control F.
Just send her the document.
Okay, yeah, we don't need to do it right
I
now.
mean, like, you know, these
I
are.
understand how to mechanically do it, it's just that you just don't amend the charter and
Yes, I know.
bylaws. but-
So we'll make that
Yeah.
another goal.
Yep.
Change name to select board.
We will be select board members.
Yes. Anything else?
That's all for right now.
That's all for now. All right. That took longer than I thought. Meeting minutes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for April 8th, 2019.
When do we discuss it? After the motion?
Yeah, well,
I had just, I had suggested a change that I don't see in here, which was, prior to the meeting, we were emailed that letter that Brian Latina also handed out during public session, and it says in there, please make this part of the public record. So I'm just, how do we do that? Should it be listed with the documents at the end?
I'm sorry.
I had, when Vivian sent this out, I had said that I thought that the letter that Brian Latina had passed around during the public, the open session, should be part of the record because they specifically asked for it to be. So should that be listed here?
What happens is the packets for the board meetings and items that are introduced at the packet get put into the.
This was
folder.
handed out at open session.
Right, it was handed out at open session. So I'm
Right,
s-
that
so-
could, right.
So I'm
that could change-
suggesting it be listed in the minutes.
Exactly, and it does get put into the folder for the meetings. So yes, she can add that to the, whether it's added or not, it will be kept with the folder for the minutes, for the meeting.
So can we vote on an amended minutes that adds that letter?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll...
Do you want to restate the motion?
I'll amend my motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 8, 2019, with the addition of a supporting document being the letter that Brian Latina provided at open session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2019.
I'll second.
Any input? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Second that?
And I'll make a motion that we approve the executive session minutes for May 6, 2019, not to be released.
Second.
Aye.
I'll make we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain, I assume, because I don't have those.
Aye. There was 4.
4-0. All right, Selectmen liaison reports and referrals. Virginia, anything?
Just I sent out the link to the last planning board video, giving you a heads up on the Charles Way that may come our way. And then the Vinyl Square Committee is planning to come to the board meeting on June 3rd to review the wayfinding. And they're also moving forward with the next phases for Varney Park and the facade upgrades. And they're working with DPW on Varney Park.
Fantastic.
Okay. George, anything?
I just want to acknowledge the passing of a classmate of mine who was a longtime town employee, Tommy Buntel. He passed away over the weekend, and he worked maybe 30 years for the town. And he was in the school department for a while, then he worked for the facilities department for many, many years. Really a good guy, you know, a good kid. And he just took sick quickly and just passed. So just want to acknowledge it to his family and to the people out there. Thank you. That's it.
Anything to add?
So the Chelmsford Community Preservation Committee met, and the town records, I don't know if anyone has any interest in preserving old documents. I know a couple of people who do that as their job. So it's an amazing process when you have really ancient books and papers. You have to remove generations of acid from our fingers on them, and you have to clean up the paper, and sometimes you have to rebind the books. But we had ancient records from the 1800s in our basement, and Honorina Maloney started this project, and Tricia Zuris is continuing the updating of the space so that it is now climate controlled, it is well organized. The historical documents, they received some money for that, but the historical documents are being cleaned up and preserved and put in archival quality boxes so that they can be accessed. It's a huge, huge undertaking, and so the Community Preservation Committee ordered them another amount, in this case $20,000, to continue with their preservation of some of these records from Chelmsford. And the process is amazing. If I would imagine that these minutes are posted. There was a whole PowerPoint presentation, so if you want to dig through the website and find the Community Preservation Committee, the PowerPoint that Tricia Zuris did was very informative, and it was interesting to see how far the town has come in terms of organizing and storing and maintaining these records that are important to Chelmsford as a town. So.
Okay, Pat.
Yeah, I have a couple. Another person who passed away recently was Ann McGuigan. I think a lot of people know Ann. She served on the planning board for several terms, and For many years, she ran the Gentle Arms Daily Transportation business in Chelmsford, helping a lot of folks get around that didn't have another means of transportation. So we're going to miss Ann. Latest Eagle Scout in Chelmsford is Eric Lee. His Court of Honor was about 3 weeks ago. I attended that, so congratulations to Eric Lee. And want to thank everybody that came out to Maxwell's on Saturday for the Armed Forces Day cookout that we had over there, including Virginia and her family. It raised over $300. It was a nice day. A lot of people came out to have a hamburger or a hot dog that day, so we thank them all for coming out. That's all.
Then finally, one last person, keeping your thoughts and prayers. Glenn Diggs, our past chairman, he lost his son tragically, and I think we can all say that our hearts and are with him, and our prayers go out to him and his family. All right, with that, we have a motion?
Press.
Oh, Press, do you have any questions?
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session, to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation from the Police Superior Officers Union.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have to roll call.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 There you go.